Paradeep. So I think we have enough attendees. Maybe some other scholars will join meanwhile. I guess we can officially start our webinar. I'll start with my introduction. Hello, everyone. My name is Alpha. I'm a WMI Regional Coordinator for the Asia and Oceania region. I'm based in Nepal, and I am the moderator for today's presentation. Now let's talk about the presentation. I'm very happy to share that we have crossed halfway of our webinar series, and we are on the 5th week. In the past, we learned about market research, mission statement, SWOT analysis, budgeting, and financial management. And this week, we are going to learn about HR staffing needs and recruitment. We have two parts for this topic today and on Friday. Today, which is the part 1, we will be learning about determining staffing needs at the startup stage, creating a job description, and recruitments. And on Friday, we will continue learning about this particular topic, but on other various subtopics. Talking about staffing needs and recruitment, it's a very important topic for organization management because at the end, we have to deal with the people rather than with the strategies. And for this very important topic, we are very fortunate that we are going to learn it from a very experienced professional. We are lucky and fortunate to learn from her experience. Scholars, it's my great honor to introduce Miss Edna Mohanji to you. Miss Edna Mohanji, Miss Edna Mohanji is a vast experienced human resource manager with a strong administrative background with over 10 years in the human resource field. She is well known for her people-centric human resource management skill, staff engagement and productivity promotion, startup specialization, and many more. She holds a diploma in human resource management and a second-class honor degree in business administration with human resource specialization. She has worked with various organizations such as Breeze International Academics, Signing Hope for Communities, ACRI Africa as a human resource manager. Some of her expertise are, but not limited to, HR policies and procedures, coaching and mentoring, HR strategy formulation, payroll and benefits, administration, recruitment and selection, and many more. So Ms. Edna Mohanji, the screen is all yours. But before that, I'm sorry to interrupt, but before that, I would like to tell our scholars that let's make this session very interactive. Please feel free to post your question in the Q&A section and also use the chat section to share your thoughts, anything about this presentation or about the topic. Your question is very important for us and for other attendees as well. Ms. Mohanji, please take the screen. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Alpha, for the intro. Yes, my name is Edna Mohanji, and I'm joining you from Nairobi, Kenya. I am a HR professional with extensive experience in the human resources field. And just to add to the intro that Alpha has given, I am a HR consultant currently, and I specialize in helping small, medium-sized enterprises and startups to set up their HR infrastructure so that they get it right with people from the word go. So I'm very excited to be with you here today, and I'm going to take you through how to determine your staffing needs for your startup, whether it's your business or your NGO. And also we are going to look at how to create startups. So I'm very excited to be with you today, and I look forward to a very interactive session. Thank you very much. So I think we'll start. Okay, so we are going to look at staffing needs as the beginning. Sorry, just give me a minute. Thank you. All right, so birthing a startup, any startup, it's a very intense and dynamic process. And for any startup to get off the ground in the right way and fast, you always need to have the right team of specialists in place. People who will share your vision, your mission, and of course, the core values of the organization. So you'll find that startups usually face a couple of challenges. There are so many challenges that startups usually face. They have to deal with fierce competition. They have scaling up issues, cash flow problems, finding the right hires, time management, just to name a few of the problems that startups face initially. So while there's no hard and fast rule on how to deal with these issues, one thing that comes out very clearly is that getting it right with people is undoubtedly the #1 step in the right direction, since the results of any organization are directly linked to their performance of their employees. So there is an organization called Autopsy, which is based in London. And Autopsy, what they do is that they gather data from failed startups with the aim of finding out what caused this startup to fail. So they ran an analysis on 300 failed startups, and they wanted to find out, because they had run an initial analysis and they had found out that 92% of startups fail within their first 3 years. So Autopsy decided, let's run an analysis to find out what exactly is the cause of this failure. So when they ran an analysis on the 300 failed startups, they found that the common reason that ran across the 300 companies was that not having the right team was the #1 reason why they did not make it in the first place. So how do we fix this problem of not having the right team? So in order to be able to get the right team in place, we have to determine how do we staff our startup in the first instance. How do you start your business? How do you start your CBO or your NGO when you're at the startup stage? So in order for you to successfully start your startup business, you need to do what is called a strategic workforce plan. And this is the process of analyzing your organization's current staffing needs. You're looking at your current staffing needs, and your aim is to forecast your future staffing needs so that you have the right number of people in the right jobs, in the right place, at the right time, in order to meet your organization's, both your long-term and your short-term objectives. So it's very important to do a strategic workforce plan, because you will, once you do a strategic workforce plan, you'll not run the risk of not having adequate employees at any given time to grow your business. And at the same time, you will not risk having more talent than you need, because what will happen is that if you have more talent that you need, they will eat into your bottom line. They will eat into your resources. And this is not good for a startup business. So a strategic workforce plan is an ongoing and a dynamic process. So I'm going to take you through on how to go about creating your strategic workforce plan. So the #1 step that you'll have to take is you're going to start with your mission and your vision. So before I continue, maybe I'd just like to ask you a question. Do you know what a vision of an organization is? Maybe you can just briefly, if you know, you can just put it in the chat so that I can see if it's something that we understand. What is a vision of an organization? Right? Anyone? Okay. So I can't see any response. I don't know if there's anyone who knows what a vision is. Okay. All right. I guess we shall see as we go along. A vision statement is basically that statement that you create as an organization that makes it clear for everyone to know where the organization is headed. So the vision statement, it makes it clear what the organization intends to achieve once all its goals and objectives are fully accomplished. A mission statement, on the other hand, exactly. Thank you, Kum. I can see, yeah, excellent. I see we are on the right page. Good. So the vision statement, it's like the end, where are we going? So everyone is able to understand, this is the vision of organization X, right? What about a mission statement? Anyone with any idea on what a mission statement is? Thank you, Clifton. Because there's normally a lot of confusion on a vision and mission statement. People normally think it's one and the same, but they are not. Yes. Thank you, Clifton. A mission statement is the vehicle that takes you to the desired end. Exactly. You're very right. Thank you. Anyone else with a different definition? Thank you, Kum. Exactly. A mission statement is a pathway to the vision statement. You are both very correct. Yes. So a mission statement, on the other hand, is a concise explanation of the organization's reason for existence. It's about the overall goal. It identifies the goal of the organization's operation. Thank you, Tim Olive. Thank you very much. It's the roadmap to a desired end. So your mission statement is the roadmap to your destination, and your destination is your vision. Thank you very much. So for you to be able to create your strategic workforce plan, these two things, the vision and the mission, has to be clear, because it will be impossible for you to understand your staffing needs if you do not understand what your vision and mission is. When you're clear on these two, then it becomes very easy to attract like-minded individuals who believe and share in your vision and support your mission and vision. Okay, so let us create our strategic workforce plan. So the first step would be to define our business objectives. This is because we need to be very clear on what our business objectives are, and they need to be achievable. Once they're achievable, now we can be able to align them to the work activities that are required to carry out the goals and objectives. So it's very important that the first stage, that you clearly define your business objective, you understand them, and then you align them to the work activities that are required to carry out these goals and objectives. So now we know the impact that your business objectives have on the workforce. Okay, so the next stage, you will need then, once you are clear on your business objectives, you will need to now evaluate your current and your future workforce plan. So how do you do this? First of all, you begin with your current workforce plan, your current workforce, whereby you seek to understand the staff that you already have, if you have any, that is. So you will try to determine how will this workforce evolve over time. And how do they evolve? They evolve through turnover, that is people resigning, maybe an aging workforce, you're letting people go. There'll be technological changes. As you can see, the world nowadays, there are a lot of technological changes happening every other time. There will also be business disruptions. For example, the COVID-19 situation, it caused a lot of job losses. We saw people having to resign because of the situation. And also we've had disruptions, like now we're having people working from home, something that was not there before, and businesses have to accommodate these disruptions. So at this current stage, you're going to be asking yourself, if you have a workforce that is properly structured and composed of the right people in order to accomplish your short-term and long-term goals. So in terms of the future, you're looking at things like, if you're venturing into new markets, do you have the staff to do this, or do you need to hire new staff? And if you have the staff, do they have the correct skill set to be able now to assist you to venture into new markets? Maybe you're launching a new product. Do you have the necessary team? Where are you going to get the people who are going to help you to launch this new product? So that is what you're going to do when you're evaluating your current workforce. The next stage you're going to take is now you're going to do a gap analysis, whereby you're going now to determine, look at the gap that exists between your current and then your future or projected workforce needs. So you're looking at the gap and finding out how you're going to close these resource gaps, right? So you're looking at ways how you're going to come up with plans and evaluation metrics of closing these gaps. So the next stage you're going to do is that you're going now to formulate a solution on how you're going to close the gaps. You have determined the gaps, you know which gaps are there, right? For example, you can have determined a gap in terms of you have the right staffing in place, but they do not have the required skills. For example, you're launching a new product and you need 3 or 4 marketers, but your marketers do not have the capability of going out to market this particular product. So you want now to come up with a solution on how you're going to enable the current workforce that you have be ready to launch your new product. So at this stage of formulating the solution, you're going to come up with strategies. The strategies could include things like recruiting, if you need new staff, for example. You are training, as for the example I've given for the marketers, you're training them on the marketing tips that they need in order to successfully launch the new product. You might need to restructure your organization. You might need to look at your succession plan to make sure that you have enough talent to cover your future workforce needs. So these are the kind of solutions you're coming up with at this formulation stage. So at this stage, you're also involving other members of your team so that your workforce plan can come to life. You cannot do this on your own. So the next and final stage is that you're going now to monitor your progress. So you've implemented the plan, you have come up with solutions on how to close the gaps. You have decided, for example, you're restructuring the organization, or you've decided a certain department is going for retraining, right? So at this stage, you're now looking to see if these people have gone out for training, how is the training? Has it been effective? Do we need to go back and relook at our training strategy? These people who have been retrained, how are they performing? So you are monitoring your progress and you're evaluating to make sure that you are on the right track. Okay, so that is basically how to create your workforce plan. Okay, so I think that's it. Please don't mind about the notes. We are going to provide for you the resources that you need at the end of the webinar. We'll provide you with the notes so that you can be able to go through them. Okay, so the next topic we are going to look at is how we are going to fill, which are the essential roles that you need at the start of your business, at the startup stage of your CBO NGO. There are those roles that are they are must-have roles for your organization to take off, right? At the initial stage of any startup, you don't really need a formal organization structure. A lean organizational structure is okay, but also let's remember that at this stage, you do not have the funds you're trying to make things work out, you have very limited funds. So basically at the startup stage, usually you'll find that the staff that you have to wear very many hats in order to make the organization's vision a reality. So you'll be looking for people who are flexible, you're looking for people with passion, and also looking for people who are trustworthy. The rule of the thumb always when you're hiring at the startup stage, always start at the top, right? You're starting with a strategic team. This is because the strategic team is usually responsible for setting up the strategic direction of your organization. So if you don't fill the strategic roles, you are likely to fail because your team will lack a strong leadership and it will lack direction. So many people downplay saying, oh, we don't have the budget, or they look for a reason why not to set up a strategic team. But if you want to get into the right direction, make sure that you have a team that is going to be strong in leadership and will give the necessary direction to the rest of the team. So I'm going to look at it in two segments. I'm going to look at the one for a startup business. Then I'm going to look for the one for a startup NGO, a CBO. This is because the dynamics in terms of the team are different. So I'll start with the startup business. So I'm going to go through it so that you know the roles that you need at the startup stage. So the first role is done for the Chief Executive Officer, who is the CEO. This is the visionary of the team. And this is the person who sets the vision of the company. He or she will be the person who will develop the mission statement and oversee the progress of other executives. So this role is very, very important because this is the person who will oversee the general strategy and business plan of the company. So this is usually the first role that any founder would create for their startup business. The next role will be the one for a Chief Operating Officer. And this, the other name for a COO is the operational lead. And this is the person who is responsible for running the business as a business. It's the person who will translate the vision and make it in a reality by building the necessary operational infrastructure for your startups. They are the ones who will determine the logistics of running the company. So this is also another very important role. Next, we have the Chief Financial Officer. And the CFO, Chief Financial Officer, is the one who will ensure that there's a budget for the business, right? And there are income projections for different phases of the business development. Then this is the person who will pitch that information to investors in order to demonstrate the viability of the business, right? They're the ones who are ensuring that the startup has the seed money in order to purchase business essentials and drive growth. This is a very, very, very important role. It should never be overlooked because this is the person who is making sure that the financial controls and policies are in place. They're the ones who are making sure that the business is becoming as profitable as soon as possible, while making sure that the business is managing its debts, its assets, and its equity. You also want to look at the role of the Chief Marketing Officer, the CMO, and this is the person who is overseeing sales, advertising, and marketing across the multiple channels of your business. They're the ones who are determining how to make money for the business by finding the right clients to attract, by attracting the right clients, and also retaining these clients for the startup, right? So this person is very important because they are the ones who will develop the startup brand's identity. And also they will come up with ways to promote awareness of the product or services that your startup business is providing. For the ones who are starting tech startups, you'll need this role. This is not a must for those who do not have tech startups, but if you have a tech startups, you have to have a Chief Technology Officer who will be the chief of all things technical, right? He's the one who's going to determine your tech strategy, your tools, your processes, and the workflow for the team. So this person is the one who will basically get the product or service off the ground. So it's very important to have this person if you're setting up a tech startup. The next one is the HR and admin manager. This is one of those roles that are always, most of the time overlooked. Most organizations at the startup stage believe that they do not need a HR manager. But as we've seen from Autos's report, you need someone who will guide you in things, human resources. The role of the human resources manager will be to supervise onboarding new staff. They'll be the ones who will be assisting in workplace issues, setting up policies and procedures. They'll be the one who will make sure that the compensation and benefit structure is competitive so that you are attracting the correct, right quality applicants to join your startup team, right? So this role of HR manager should never be overlooked, because if you want to have the right team, you'll need someone to guide you through this process. At the startup stage, the HR manager can also take up the role of administrative manager. So that's why it's called the HR and admin manager. And they can support in setting up, for example, the office management issues, logistics, and vendor management. So this is a role that can, you see, it's a two-in-one role. At the startup stage, you can combine these two and it can be very effective. So the next step you are looking at is the product manager. And this is the person who will be responsible for constructing the startup's product. This is the person who will develop the products that meet the customer's needs. He's the one who will analyze the performance of the product, right? And he'll also be the one who knows the pain point of the customer and be able to find the best solution for your product. So without this person, I don't know how your startups will be able to be able to manage your product or services. So this is a very critical and essential role. The next role that you need also is that one of a business development manager. And this is the one who will be able to identify the sales leads. They'll pitch the goods and services to new clients and also maintain a good relationship, working relationship with these new clients. So this is also a very essential role, because this is the person who will engage with the clients, present product demos, and also manage the end-to-end sales process of the product. So they'll also be in charge of negotiating and closing deals. So if you have any question, please just put it in the chat. I'm going to be able to address it once I come to the end of the webinar. So that is the essential roles you need for your startup business. Next, I'm going to look for when you're starting your startup NGO or CBO, which roles are essential. So for any NGO to hit off the ground, the first thing you need is you need to have a board of directors. This is because these are the people who are responsible for steering the organization in the right direction. They're the ones who are in charge of the ethical and legal governance of the CBO, NGO. They're the ones who are in charge of the management policies. So this is the beginning of your CBO or NGO. So the board of directors usually are in charge of appointing the executive director. And the executive director is the same as the CEO in the business startup. This is the person, this is the visionary. He's the one who will give he or she will give strategic leadership for the implementation of the organization's mission or goals. Usually at the startup stage, the executive director would double up as the chairman. So they'll be part of the board of directors. But now this would be something that you would decide, the board of directors would decide. The executive director also is in charge of executing the organizational policy, programs, and initiatives. So this is the face of the public face of the organization. The next role you want to fill for your CBO or startup NGO is the program manager. This is a very, very important role, because this is the person who will handle the projects of the organization to ensure that they're in line with the goals and objectives of the organization. They will plan and oversee the projects of the organization, making sure that whatever the projects, they are within budget and that the projects come up with the desired outcomes and are aligned to the objectives. Another important role is that of the organizational development manager. And the role of this person would be to contribute to the design and the delivery of people and organizational development strategies. So this person is managing change, and he or she is also supporting the organization's strategic and operational plans. They provide information needed, and they will give advisory advice on managing the organization. So it's an important role because it enables the organization to become a high-performing organization in a very short time span. Next, you want to put in place a monitoring and evaluation manager. And their work basically is to monitor and evaluate, as their title says, the systems that are in place, making sure that the systems are implemented throughout the organization's activities. So they will create, develop, and support programs and the teams using the chosen monitoring and evaluation systems to make sure that all the needs of the key stakeholders are met. Next, you're putting in place a finance and admin manager. In brackets, I put HR, and I'll explain why. So the finance and admin manager at the startup stage, you see they're taking two roles, that one over finance and admin, and they'll be responsible for overseeing, administrating, and financial management. They are making sure that all the contractual integrity of all agreements entered into the office. They are managing the procurement processes. They're making sure that the funds that are in the organization are being prudently managed. So this finance and admin manager also, they are at the startup stage. They're normally tasked with the HR needs of the organization. So depending on your budgetary allowance, you can either choose to have a finance and admin manager and then a HR manager separately. But at the very startup stage, it will be advisable to combine the three roles together. So this person will also be ensuring compliance with the regulations of the financial regulations that are there, making sure that every unit, the finances required for every unit are available. The other role that you want to look at, just rushing through quickly because of time, the communication and advocacy officer. And this is the person who will advise and give expertise to managers, key stakeholders, and the public on a range of advocacy and outreach issues. They're the ones who will carry out policy analysis, and they'll be writing statements, position statements of the organizations for the public. So this person is very important because they play an integral role in networking, lobbying, and representing the organization. The other position we look at is the technical officer. And this person is the one who will look at the policies, the processes, the tools, and the information across the organization. So they'll serve as a technical resource and provide quality technical assistance, especially to the program team, but also to the rest of the team in terms of tools, materials, and capacity building issues. The other role that we are looking at that is very, very essential is the volunteer coordinator. And this coordinator will be in charge of making sure that, in charge of recruiting the volunteers, interviewing them, supervising them, and also training them. The volunteer coordinator or coordinator will also be looking at things like promoting and organizing events that involve the volunteers. So they'll be tracking the volunteer hours and also managing them. So the last but not least role will be the office administrator. And this person will give operational and administrative support to the organization. They'll also be looking at the front desk, making sure that if there are any visitors, they feel welcome, and doing other administrative duties within the organization to make sure that the office is running smoothly on a daily basis. Okay. Thank you. So, the next thing we are going to look at, the factors that you need to consider when you're deciding whether a position can be a paid position or an unpaid position in your startup organization. So first of all, let's just try to define a paid position. I'm sorry about the glitch. Maybe is there anyone who knows what a paid position is? Can help us? Just put your response in the chat. What do you understand by a paid position? Anyone? Anyone who has an understanding of what a paid position is? How do we define it? So I'll just give you one more minute. If there's anyone who can be able to define a paid position. Great, thank you, Alpha. Position that is compensated with money. Any other definition? Financial situation of the business. That's not quite it, Albert. Grace, thank you also. Could be a position where one is paid, yes. Good. Okay, thank you. Thank you for your responses. Yeah, Christabel, a working scenario whereby an employee is compensated. Exactly, that is a very good definition, Christabel. Thank you very much. Yeah, so yeah, you have a very good idea on what it is. It is a job or a work where the employee or the worker is compensated at the end of a specified period in exchange for services that this person has rendered to the organization or the company. So payment for a paid position can be in terms of a salary, a daily wage, it can be an hourly rate. It depends on how the worker has agreed with the organization they are working with. So it can be either of that, it can be a commission or a bonus, right? And paid positions can either be, they can be full-time, part-time, or fixed term. It can be a casual, and even we have interns who are paid. So the aim of a paid position is, a person taking a paid position is that they want to generate money from their employment. Okay, so what about an unpaid position? What is an unpaid position? An unpaid position is quite just the opposite of a paid position, whereby the worker is working without payment. So it does not mean because a worker is working without payment, their job is of no value. There are many reasons why a worker may decide to take on an unpaid position, right? So we can see, for example, in a paid position, there can be something like called an internship, whereby as part of their coursework, a student in a university or college is required to work at a company for a specified period of time, maybe 3 months, 6 months, in order for them to get the practical skills that are needed in their specified area of study, right? So you'll find an internship is a kind of unpaid work arrangement. We also have vocational training, whereby it's a formal work experience and it's part of a training course. So the student is able to be placed in a work environment whereby they are able to successfully transition from their study to work, right? We also have volunteers who do unpaid, who take up unpaid roles, and their aim is they do that because they believe in the cause of the organization, right? They have either a passion or a talent that they want to share, right? So those are the different reasons why someone could take up an unpaid position. So let us look at the factors that you would be considering when deciding whether a role is paid or unpaid. Okay, so the first one would be the legislation. The legislation is, every country usually has labor laws, every country in the world, that specify the responsibilities and rights in employment, especially that of the employer-employee relationship. So before you do anything, you need first to understand the requirements in your area of operation or jurisdiction. What laws govern the hiring of paid and unpaid workers? Because in some countries, some paid work is lawful, some unpaid work is unlawful. So you need to understand what is allowable and what is not allowable, depending on where you are. So most labor laws will use certain criteria to determine, for example, if work should be unpaid. So they'll be wanting to find out if you are engaging an unpaid worker, does there exist an employment relationship, for example, right? They'll be looking into that. They'll also be looking at if the relationship between you and this unpaid person, does it involve training, right? So there are certain parameters that will be put in place according to the law to determine whether it's lawful to engage someone as a paid worker or an unpaid worker. The next thing you'll want to look at is the nature of your business or your organization. As we've seen, NGOs and CBOs, they heavily rely on volunteers due to the nature of their organization. So it would not be something strange if an NGO, for example, takes on an unpaid volunteer. It makes a lot of sense because NGOs and CBOs, they do not make profit. They're out to serve the community, right? So their aim is not normally to make profits. So that's why they rely on volunteers in order to achieve their goals. But it would not make sense, for example, for a business startup to have volunteers in the organization, because this would be contrary to the organization's strategic goal, which includes making profit. So you'll have to look at the nature of your business. Look at the arrangement between you and this worker. If the work that person is performing, is it normally performed by paid employees? If yes, then you cannot make that person an unpaid worker, right? You are looking at who is benefiting from this relationship, right? So if the unpaid work arrangement, the organization is the one that is benefiting, then it makes sense to make this role a paid position, right? Because for the unpaid position, like a volunteer, usually the volunteer is the one who is benefiting because now they are getting that desire to fulfill that passion that they have, right? So these are the things you need to look at. The other thing that you're going to look at is the budget that you have in your organization and the ability to pay. We are keeping in mind that the startup business does not have money to fund its operation. The startup NGO or CBO is depending on grants, on small business loans, right? So the budget is very lean at this stage. So you are looking at these factors and looking even if you have a compensation policy in place, you're looking at what does the compensation policy say? Because at the end of the day, you're looking to keep the operation cost at a minimum in order to achieve your goals and your objectives. So for startups, this is where the services of volunteers come in to provide the necessary labor and the support in order to support the activities of the NGO. For business startups, on the other hand, since they cannot engage with volunteers, then they'll be looking at how to compensate the paid workers, but at the same time, they're looking at the ability to pay. So that once the business has scaled up, then they can be able now to operate with a more solid staff in place. The other thing we are looking at is the scope of work to be done. So you are looking at, for example, you're looking at things like, is it a learning experience, right? If it's a learning experience, like in the case of an internship, that can be an unpaid position. But that said, also the internship arrangements where that the position can be unpaid, especially if it's the organization that is benefiting more from the intern, right? So you'll be looking at the scope of work. How long is this person needed? Are they needed throughout the year, or are they needed on a need basis? Is it project based? Do we need this person whenever we have a certain project, right? How many hours are they working? So these are the things you'll be looking at to make your decision on whether the position will be paid or unpaid. The other thing that you're going to want to look at, you also need to compare. You'll compare what other NGOs and CBOs are paying for that particular position. You're looking at other organizations. This is called salary benchmarking. You're gathering information on the pay and benefits of particular roles and making sure that whatever you are offering is in line with what similar organizations are paying. In this way, you're making sure you're being fair, right? And that also your company or your organization remains competitive, so that if whether it's volunteers or paid workers or interns, they want to come and work with you because they are aware that your policies, your remuneration policies are fair and they are competitive. Okay. So that is that for that particular topic. Please continue putting down your question and answers, because I'm aware of the fact that we do not have much time. So I may be rushing through and you may be having questions that you'd want clarified. Okay. So next we are going to look at how to create job descriptions. Who knows what a job description is before I continue? Who has any understanding? You can share it with us. What is a job description? Any idea? There's no wrong or right answer, because I'm here to make sure that you have the understanding in case you don't. So just share what you have, because we are learning. Thank you, Leju. Excellent. An outline of specific roles and responsibilities of an employee. Thank you, Albert. Specific roles, yes. Thank you. Specific roles and responsibilities for an employee. Yes. Kum, thank you also. Functions associated with a particular position. Thank you, Peter, telling about the company's work and responsibilities. Nirandi Kumana, thank you. A formal account of an employee's responsibilities. Tawina, thank you also. It's an account of an employee's responsibilities. Maureen Odor, portfolio of the employee. Asante sana. It outlines responsibilities of all employees. Yes, Clifton, thank you so much. Yes, so we're all on board. We know what a job description is, which is basically a statement that describes the roles and purpose, responsibilities, the scope of job title, the designation of the person, and also it tells us about the person to whom the employee reports. So we can see here, Edwin B. Filippo has described a job description as an organized factual statement of the duties and responsibilities of a specific job. So a job description is very important in that it provides a very clear understanding on the roles and duties of a particular position, so that the management is nobody now, it becomes clear on the action that the management needs to achieve its organizational goals. A job description, I call it a JD, just in short form. A JD also, it acts as an attraction tool in that would-be applicants for a particular role are able to quickly understand what a job entails, and they can be able to gauge whether this job is a good fit for them or not. A JD also, it lays the foundation of ongoing job performance management. How? since the roles and responsibility are clearly articulated, it's easier to set the key performance indicators for a role, thereby making it even simpler to measure the success or the failure of the job holder in that particular position. It's also acts as a learning and development tool, since it's very clear on the particular skill set that are needed to perform a job. It's very easy to know what a job holder needs to be trained on in order for them to be effective. And last but not least, it also creates boundaries on the job responsibilities, in that it ensures that roles are not duplicated, because sometimes that's what happens in an organization. You find 2 or 3 people, they have different titles, but they're doing more or less the same thing. So the JD is there to make sure that no roles are duplicated. Okay, so now we are going to look at how are we going to write our job description. So we are going to first start, for you to start to write a job description, you need to first know how to perform a job analysis. And a job analysis basically is the process that is used to identify the tasks, the responsibilities, the skills, the objectives, and also the work environment for a specific job. So you will gather and analyze information about the content and the human requirements for a job, right? So when you perform a job analysis, the outcome, you're going to have 2 documents with you. You will have a job description document, and you'll have a job specification document. I've also provided a sample template of a job analysis, which you'll be able to look at so that you can see the specific things you're looking at when you're filling in your job analysis form. So for the purposes of this webinar, we are looking at the job description. So how do we perform our job analysis? First, we are going to start by collecting data. So once we have identified the job that we want to analyze, we are collecting data for this specific job. So we are looking at how is this job performed. You want to talk to the manager who oversees this particular role, or you will be talking to the employees. If there are employees who are already in that particular role, you will talk to them to find out what exactly does it entail to perform this role. Another way you can collect the data, you can send out questionnaires to staff with specific questions so that you are very clear on what this role entails. You can even have interviews with the staff just to find out what the role entails. Another source of information will be a diary log. Some organizations have diary logs where their specific tasks are normally logged in on an hourly basis or a daily basis. So you can take hold of that diary log and understand what the job entails. You can also do what is called observation, whereby you sit and observe the job as it's being performed. So these are the ways how you can collect data for your job analysis. So once you have collected your data, you will now want to document, verify, and review the data. So when you're documenting and verifying the data, you have already collected all the data pertaining to the job. You're going now to list all the core tasks that are required to perform that job. Once you've done that, you're going to identify the critical competencies for the job, right? You're looking at what is very important in this particular role. What are we looking for to be able to say that this person has performed this job well? You also want to look and ascertain how shall we be able to measure performance, because you don't want to give somebody a job that at the end of the day, you cannot be able to measure whether they have done well or they have not done well. So these are the things that now you're going to be making sure that you have put down in place. So once you have documented, you have verified and reviewed your information, you're now going to collect all that information. You're going to put it in an ordering form and put it together. Because now, once you have that in place, we are now going to write our job description. So it's very important for your organization always to have a job description template. because this will help the organization to streamline the creation of job descriptions so that you're not inventing the wheel every other time you want to do a job description. And it will also ensure consistency in documentation across the entire organization. So I have here a sample of a job description, which we shall go through together so that we can understand how a job description is formulated. So right here, you can see there's a company logo. Here, you're going to put your NGO's logo, your business logo, your CBO. Why? Because this is what authenticates your job description. Normally, there are very many, a job description can be sent out and maybe it's for a crook. So once you have your logo there, it says this belongs to X company. And it removes any doubt that someone may have. So at the top here, we are going to put our job description. The first thing you're going to do is to decide on your job title. When you're deciding on your job title, make sure you use commonly understood language so that that title accurately reflects the nature of the job. Like, for example, what we have here, we have a program manager. Program manager is the title. So when someone hears program manager, they quickly can be able to say, oh, this is a person who manages programs. So it's easy for someone to understand what the title entails. Why am I saying that? Is because nowadays there are very many fancy ways of coming up with job titles that normally create confusion. So it's very important so that you can attract the right candidate to put in a job title that is clearly understood. Okay, so the next line here, we can see the job type or the terms of engagement. So here we are looking at this person who will come on board. How is the organization intending to engage them? Is it on a full-time basis? As you can see here, it could be on a part-time basis. It could be for a fixed term, maybe for a year. So you're going to make it very clear at that point. Next, we are going to look at where the job is located. It's very important to put this in place so that when someone is interested in this position, for example, they can be able to quickly know if this, for example, if someone is here, we can see this person is based in Nepal, India. So if I put this up on our website and I didn't put the location, somebody in Arizona, in the US, for example, might apply. But you see, this position is based in India, and this person in Arizona is not willing to locate to India. So it's very important to put up the location of the job. The next one is the person to whom the role will be reporting. Here we can see it's the director of programs. Very important to put this in place because it makes the person taking up the job know where they stand in terms of hierarchy, and also they know whom they'll be working with and how they fit in terms of the reporting structure. Another thing that is optional that I've not put here is the salary or compensation information. This is optional because it depends on the policy of the organization. Some organizations might find it important, others may not. But usually it is a good thing because it helps in the hiring process, whereby you weed out people who are not interested in the compensation that you are offering. The next part here is the about section, whereby it's the opportunity for you to talk about your organization in order to attract the right candidates. So you want to hook the reader with details about what it's like to work for your organization. As you can see here, XYZ, they strive to make the world a better place by providing accessible health, water, and sanitation services to the underprivileged and marginalized communities. We believe that everyone has a right to clean and good health. If you feel you share in our beliefs then, and you'd like to be part of this great story, you can join us. So this speaks to the candidate. They feel like this is speaking to them, and if they're interested, they will apply for the position. Next, you're going to write a role summary. This is just a brief on what the role entails. It should be like a maximum of 5 sentences, 3 to 5 sentences. And it tells what this person will be doing on a daily basis. And it has the most important tasks that are needed. So you can also just put something about what about the culture of the organization and why the candidate would want to work for you. So we can see here there's a brief summary of the role, what it entails. And also we can see that the program manager is working closely with the field teams, building ecosystems. So this person is able to quickly see if they come on board, this is what they're expected to do, right? I can see some hands raised. Okay, all right. All right. So once you've given the job summary, you're going to now list the main duties and responsibilities of the role. So for this particular job description, you can see it has been broken down into pillars. There's a pillar on program management, development and coordination. There's a pillar on people management, and there's a pillar on program strategy. You can either break it down like that, or you can just list them. So the rule of the thumb, you list them as bullet points and have a maximum of 10 responsibilities, right? And you use action verbs, you see? So we are seeing work with marketing and communication manager, represent field teams. Make sure you use English language that is clear to understand. Don't beat around the bush. Just make it clear what this person will be doing. So you outline the requirements. So you might remember we are getting this information from our job analysis template. That's where you'll be pulling it and posting it into your job description template. Next, you're going to look at the skills and experience, or it's sometimes called the skills and competencies. And this section, you will have the qualifications that are needed for someone to be able to effectively perform this role. Here we can see this person needs to have a master's degree. They need to have at least 6 years of experience in managing implementation of marketing and mobilization activities. So make it clear what qualifies this person to apply for this job, right? You're also talking about the skills needed. You're talking about the experience or competencies, right? So the competencies are describing the traits that you need for someone to perform this job well, right? We are looking at exceptional leadership and time management. We are looking at exceptional written and verbal communication skills in Hindi and English. This role most probably is at the community level, whereby this person will be dealing with people at the community level, and there would be people who do not understand Hindi, for example. So if this person can be able to speak Hindi, their work will be more efficient, right? We are looking at the skills. These are the experiences that someone has gained over time, right? We are looking at someone who has a working knowledge of digital marketing. So make sure you list them down and let them not be more than 5 bullet points each, so that now you're not also confusing the would-be applicant. The other section you want to put in will be that one of working condition. This is an almost overlooked section in most job descriptions for you who have ever looked at any job description, but it's very important because it's make it clear for a would-be applicant to decide if they're a good fit or not, right? It's explaining the physical demands of the job. It's explaining the working conditions. Like here we are seeing the physical exigencies of this position requires the employee to work both inside and outside, in heat, cold, wet, humid. So if a person, for example, has a health condition that bars them from working in such a position, they will not apply, right? We can see this person may be requested to work overtime on weekends for special program events. So if someone thinks this is something that is not for them, they will not take up the position. They are required to travel outside, right? So it's very important because it makes the prospective applicant determine if they're a good fit for the role or not. And also for people with disabilities, they're able to make accommodation requests if it's necessary for them to do so, and also makes the hiring process more efficient, right? So that is how we write our job description. Any questions, please? Just put them in the chat and in the Q&A and chat sections, and we'll be able to address them at the end. So next, I'm going to look at recruiting strategies for both paid and unpaid positions. How do we recruit for these positions? Because you see, they're two different. These are paid and unpaid. And definitely recruiting for these two positions cannot be the same. Okay. So I've mentioned recruiting strategies, so I have to explain what it is, because maybe there's someone who is really not on board with what a recruiting strategy is. And this is a carefully thought out plan, and it outlines the steps and activities that an organization will take in order to identify, attract, and recruit the qualified candidate to fill open positions in their organization. It's a formal company plan, and it's an ongoing, just like any other strategy, it's something that is ongoing and dynamic. Okay, so let us look at how we recruit for paid positions. So we are first going to look at paid position. How do we recruit for our paid positions? The first step we are going to do is that we are going to review our workforce plan, right? We have gone through how to create a workforce plan. So we'll recruit it, we'll review it, and we'll be looking at the current structure, looking, for example, who is likely to move. Are there any upcoming promotions? Are there any gaps that are coming up soon? How are we going to fill that? So you are reviewing to make sure if there are any gaps, you have a plan in place on how you're going to fill. You're going to decide on the quality of candidates you're looking for. So this will be based on your company culture and your values. You are deciding what kind of talent do you want to attract, right? You're looking at the values that would make a team member successful, for example. You're looking at what kind of person tends to work well historically. What kind of person doesn't work well? So you're looking at this quality so that when you want to recruit, you know exactly the kind of person you are looking at. Next, you're going to decide on your employee value proposition, your EVP. And the EVP is the promise that an employer makes to employees in return for their commitment. It includes usually things like the salary, the benefits, the career growth opportunities that your company or organization has, your company policies, your work-life balance. Basically, there are those things that make people want to work for your organization. So you're being clear on your EVP to would-be candidates. Then you're going to decide on your sourcing strategy. And this is where will you source your candidates from. There are very many avenues where you can source your candidates from. For the purpose of this webinar, I'll not be able to go through them. I'll just list them. But some of them are employee referral programs, whereby you ask your current employees to recommend people to fill in open positions. You can use career fairs. You can use recruitment agencies. You can headhunt. You can promote from within your current employees. You can also use internship programs. And you can also convert temporary hires to full-time employees. So those are just not all, but a few of places where you can source your talent from. The next stage would be to improve your onboarding process. So you're going to make sure that when an employee comes on board, how do you make them feel welcome? Do they have all the tools of trade they need to perform their duties? How was their first day? Were they received well by the team? Did you take them round to look at the premises? Have they been able to meet with other team members? Do they have a buddy who will take them round so that if they have any questions? Have you set the expectations for the role clear? So you will be looking to make sure that your onboarding process is foolproof. Last but not least, you have to create a budget to support your recruitment strategy. So once you have your recruitment strategy in place, if it is solid, then you realize that you will not have to depend so much on external recruiters, which can be very expensive. So once you have a solid recruitment in place, it becomes easier for you to secure additionally budgetary allocations to improve on your strategy. For example, you can advertise You can spend some funds on independent background checks of candidates. You can purchase assessment tools to make the recruitment process simpler. Next, we are going to look at unpaid positions. First, we are going to look at volunteers. How do we recruit for volunteers? So first of all, you have to prepare your volunteer recruitment guidelines. So based on your mission and purpose of your NGO or your CBO, you're going to ask yourself questions like, what will the volunteers be doing? And what skills are we looking for in these volunteers? How many volunteers do we need, right? And how will we handle the recruitment? So you're going to prepare this, by answering these questions, you'll now be creating your guidelines. Next, you're going to decide on your sourcing strategy. And for volunteers also, there are a couple of ways you can source your volunteers from. You can use volunteer recruitment platforms, which are available online, where you post new volunteer opportunities. You can use word of mouth from staff members. You talk to staff members, board members. You can use the outreach community events to advertise for volunteer openings, or you can use postings and prints and place them at strategic places within the community. The next one is that you have to offer different volunteering opportunities. So you have to have a wide range of opportunities where people can be able to come and volunteer, so that the volunteers will appreciate there are very many options. They don't just have to utilize their skills in a specific role. They can be able to find a role that suits their specific skills and abilities. The other, you also need to be clear on your job description, in that the volunteer knows very clear. We've gone through the JD, so I'll not go through it, but the volunteer will be clear on what is expected of them. And then you need to incentivize your volunteers in order to motivate them, right? The next one we are going to look at, sorry, I'm rushing, time is not on my side. We are going to look at unpaid positions. For unpaid positions, in terms of interns now, you'll have to build an internship program whereby you'll review your work plan and look at the programs and departments that can benefit from having interns. So you have to have the program. You cannot just bring in an intern without a solid program in place, right? So that the internship is mutually beneficial for both the intern and the organization. Then you'll also have to have a training program in place, so that the intern basically is coming to you with no training. So your role is to train this intern, so that to make sure that the intern is succeeding in the organization, and also after they leave the organization, they continue succeeding. So make sure that the intern is given the necessary skills they use, that they will use in the future. Also, for the intern, you'll have to have a JD that will be very clear on what is expected of them. You're also going to decide on where to source your interns, and this can be like in career fairs. You can use word of mouth within the organization to get your interns. Then you're going to determine your selection criteria, whereby you're setting your parameters in order to get the right intern that you're looking for. You're looking at what do you want the intern to work on? What do you want this intern to learn? You're looking at who will supervise the intern, because you don't want the intern to have no supervisor. You are looking at how many hours the intern will be working. And then you're looking at how long the engagement with the intern will last. So it's very important to set these parameters in place. So at the end of the day, also, you need to compensate the intern, whether it's an unpaid or a paid position. You want to motivate them, because like any other person, they have some financial needs like transportation costs and others. And it's very important to make sure that you compensate them. So as I said, very important to understand the legal guidelines and labor laws in your specific area of jurisdiction that govern paid and unpaid positions. Okay, So we are going to look at how we are going to pitch to convince people to take on unpaid positions. How do we do this, right? Because if a position is unpaid, it's not very attractive. It's not likely that it's every day you put an advert. You are looking for a volunteer or whatever position it is, and then you say there's no payment. It's very likely that you'll find a handful of applicants. So how do you convince the right people to take on the unpaid positions? First of all, you make sure that for this unpaid position, you are providing valuable hands-on experience. So this person who is coming on board, you're making sure that you're giving them various different and varied opportunities to be able to make use of their experience and their skills so that they feel useful. Another thing you need to do is to provide a flexible work environment. Remember, this is an unpaid position. You cannot expect someone who is unpaid to work from 9 to 5, for example. So you give them a flexible work environment where maybe they can come in 2 days in a week or a certain number of hours so that at least they can be able to do other things in their lives that they have. So it's flexible. So it's not like it's a must that they be there. The other thing that they can do, you can promote the organization mission and vision so that this person coming on board can be able to see whether the mission and vision speaks to them. Are they able to share your vision and embrace it? So make sure you promote your mission and vision. You also offer training opportunities whereby they are able to improve on their current skills and even learn new skills. So you can have a budgetary allocation for this particular purpose. Also create networking opportunities for them, whereby if there's an opportunity for them to meet other stakeholders, like-minded individuals, you can invite them to such forums so that they can be able to network. You can also create mentorship opportunities for them, whereby we can have senior managers be able to take them on as mentors. And this can be very helpful for them because some volunteers at the end of the day would like also to have another life outside of the volunteership experience. So those are some of the few bits on how you can convince people to take up unpaid positions. So last but not least, we are going to quickly look at the benefits that can be paid to people who are taking up unpaid positions. So as we've seen, CBOs and NGOs rely heavily on volunteers, and it would be very impossible for them to achieve their goals without volunteers. And naturally, volunteers would incur transportation costs and other expenses in connection with the performance of their services. So we need to remember that these are people who have freely offered their time to help the organization meet its objective. So it will be prudent for us as an organization, an NGO or a CBO, to say thank you. Thank you for your work. Please stay with us. We appreciate you. For interns also, theirs is a learning process, yes, but the organization also benefits from them. By, for example, the people who are supervising them, their supervisory skills are increased. The organization is able to foster new talent and also gain fresh perspective from the interns. So when you look at that, you can see it's not just the unpaid position holder who is benefiting, also the organization is benefiting. So it will be good to offer them something just as a way of appreciating them and saying thank you. So you can either give them something in cash or give them something, an uncashed benefit, or even a combination of both. But one of the things you have to keep in mind is that there are laws in different countries that also govern the incentivizing of unpaid positions. So the first issue that they want to look at is whether the benefits are taxable. So that's something you have to put in mind. And also you'll be looking at whether whether the payment that you're giving this person is jeopardizing their position as an unpaid worker, because you might be paying them something that makes them look like a paid worker, so that now they don't qualify to be called an unpaid worker. So these are things you have to note. So one of the ways you can incentivize them, compensate them, is that you can give them allowances to help them cater for their day-to-day needs. Remember, you're going to be looking at the applicable tax laws in your area of jurisdiction before you decide on the right allowance amount. You can decide to reimburse their expenses, certain expenses. You can decide which expenses you can reimburse them as they incur expenses in their line of duty. You can also give them recognition awards, right? They have done something that is worthy of recognition. You can give them an award, give them a certificate or a thank you note. That would go a long way in making them feel recognized. Also, you can give them training opportunities whereby you can help them grow their skills, provide them with opportunities for development. There could be training sessions in-house, whether it is someone coming from outside. It's very important to be able to continuously develop them as they continue to volunteer. You can have acts of gratitude whereby you're having, you're being considerate with them. For example, there are parking spaces that are allotted for them so that when they come, they're not stuck. Make them part of your community. You're having a party, call them to come and enjoy with you, for example, so that you can encourage them to do more. You can also make sure that they're part of networking opportunities that are there. They can be able to meet other colleagues, stakeholders, so that they feel connected to the organization and they feel that they are part of something even much bigger than themselves. You can also give them recommendation at the end of the day, recommendation letters that would help them if past your organization, they may want to volunteer in other organizations. So recommendation would help them to find other opportunities, whether paid or unpaid, right? For interns, you can give them a job, for example, so that after they've successfully completed their training, you can offer them a job when they've finished their training, and this would go a long way. Okay, so that brings us to the end of my presentation. Thank you very much. I think now we can be able to address our Q&A session. Thank you.
Yes, Edna, I think
yes.
We are running out of time. We have
Yes,
two questions posted by Leju on the Q&A section. Maybe you can answer them.
Okay. So I can see Leju, you're asking, you're saying there are 7 different roles. There are other than the CEO to hire at the startup. How much worth of a business are we talking about here? So remember, Leju, thank you for that question. At the startup stage, as I said, most of the staff that you bring in on board, you make sure that they are flexible, they are trustworthy, right? So you might not be able to pay them a market rate at the startup stage, right? So as much as there are many different roles for a CEO, right? You're looking for someone who is able to wear very many hats. So someone who understands a startup at that stage will be able to understand when they come in, they will not just be doing specific roles for a CEO. You'll find the CEO sometimes even doing the role of for example, the chief operating officer. They might have to interview, for example, for specific roles. So it's very, very important to get that fact that a startup does not have the budget that any other successful business or NGO or CBO has. The budget is very lean, and you have to look at people who share your vision and your mission, who can embrace it and are willing to wear many hats. Okay. So I hope I have answered your question, Leju. Okay, your next question is it by default that interns will always be unpaid in any? No. It's because of time I was not able to delve deeper into this, but interns are normally, they're either paid or unpaid, depending on the scope of work that is being done. So there are those interns who come to an organization because it is part of their coursework for them to earn the necessary credits for them to graduate. And then there are those interns that come into an organization where they're given they're given particular roles and responsibilities, but at the end of the day, because they are working like any other paid worker, they are compensated. So it is not that any interns has to be unpaid. And for me personally, I always advocate, even if it's that intern who is from school, who is in college, they have to be given at least a stipend to be able to, for example, for transport costs, they can be able to meet that cost. So for me personally, I do not advocate for unpaid internships. So I hope I've answered your question. Thank you. Any other question we have?
So scholars, if you have any question, you can type it quickly in the Q&A section or chat section, but I don't think we have much time. Maybe Edna, it would be great if you can stop sharing the screen.
Yes. Yes, thank you. Any other question you would have, I'd be glad to address it.
So
Okay.
there isn't any, but maybe
Yes.
I have one. Like, what is the
Yes.
role of board of directors in community-based organization? Like, why do we have board of director in CBO, but not in business, startup business?
Okay. Yeah, it is a requirement. Like I know here in Kenya, you need a board of directors because they're in charge of the legal aspect, the financial aspect. So they're the ones who are putting in place the policies, the framework that would govern the CBO or the NGO. So it is a must-have. For you to start any NGO or CBO, you must have a board of directors in place. I'm not sure about other countries if it's a requirement, but in Kenya it is.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
We are actually on the end, very few minutes
Yes.
left. Do you have a quick closing remarks to our scholars?
Okay. Yes. I hope the insights I've shared, I've given you at least I've given you some basics on how to to address the staffing needs for your startup. And also you are able to understand the importance of having, for example, a job description in place. So we'll be able to share with you the slides for the PowerPoint so that you can be able to go through it at your own pace. And I've also made available some templates to make it easier for you to understand what it is that I was talking about. Otherwise, as I said earlier, right now I am a consultant, a HR consultant, and I specialize in helping small, medium-sized enterprises, startup organizations to set up infrastructure for their HR departments so that they make sure that their people needs are aligned to their overall business strategies. So in case there's anyone who needs my help, then you can be able to reach out to me. I'm sure the Wealth Management Initiative, Mountain Initiative, sorry, would be able to provide that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Edna, for the wonderful presentation.
Yes.
I learned a
Thank
lot
you.
of things, and I am very much sure that our scholars also benefited much from your presentation. I would like to give a note to our scholars that this presentation, like if someone has missed some part of the presentation because of connectivity or because of their schedule, it will be posted on the YouTube and you will be provided the link. And yes, and also like Edna, you might also have some other supplement materials to get a knowledge about this presentation. And that will also be like the link of that or the copy of that will also be sent to you. So thank you everyone for being together on this presentation. I hope you benefited. Thank you very much for keeping patience and making this presentation an interactive one. And much great thanks to Edna for giving your time and making our scholars learn about this topic.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.